welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's the second video on my channel. Yay! My name is AB and my channel is called The Dreadful. And on here we're going to be getting into some really deep, heavy stuff, mostly murderers and kidnappings, true crime, things like that. And later on my channel we may even get into like some fun little conspiracy theories, but we'll figure that out later. And I just want to note that I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to worship or idolize these people. I'm simply trying to bring to light what they want to keep hidden under the bed, in the closet, right? I'm pulling those monsters out. And our topic today is actually really interesting because I think the killer got away. Yeah, so let's get right in it. Now, our topic today is actually a Norwegian woman named Brynhild Storseth. And that is a Norwegian name, and I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. But later on, she actually changed her name to Belle, so that's what we're going to call her. Now, Belle was born in a small town in Norway to a pretty poor family. Her father worked in a circus and wasn't bringing home much money. And so Belle decided to start saving up money when she was 14 years old so that she could move to the United States. And in 1881, that's exactly what she did. She moved to Chicago, Illinois, and got a job as a butcher. And then a few years of settling in, getting herself together, she met a man named Mads Sorensen. And they fell in love and they got married. And then they had 4 kids, and the neighbors kind of gossiped and didn't really think that the kids were Belle's because they had never seen her pregnant. They never noticed her being pregnant, giving birth, any of that. So they didn't really think that the kids were hers. And one day, 2 of those kids who were babies actually died of acute colitis, which is inflammation of the intestine, and has a lot of symptoms that are close to being poisoned. Weird. It was never looked into, though. Belle was never arrested. Nothing came of it. Now, Mads and Belle also owned a candy store, which burned down, and out of nowhere mysteriously burned down, and the insurance company came and checked it out because they suspected something was going on. But they didn't find any evidence. Nothing came of it, so they just paid them the money. And then on July 30th of 1900, Mads Sorensen had passed away. Now what's weird is that same day, on July 30th, Mads had went to this insurance company to renew his insurance, his life insurance, because his old one was about to expire or something like that. So he went there and he bought it. So he had 2 life insurances that were active that day because the other one was gonna expire the next day. So he had 2 active. And then he died. And Belle collected $5,000, which in today's money that would be equal to $180,000 that she collected for his death. Now with that money, Belle had moved to La Porte, Indiana, on a little farmhouse and, started a farm. She had some hogs, After moving to La Porte, Indiana, Belle met a man named Peter Gunness, and this is actually where she got her last name from, and it never changed. She kept it the same throughout her whole life. It stayed the same. And one day, while Peter was out of the house, Belle was left alone with his infant daughter, and she died of unknown cause. Nobody ever looked into it or investigated, nothing. So, kind of sketchy. And then in December, about 8 months later of 1902, Peter died of a skull injury, which Belle explained to be a meat grinder falling on his head. Doesn't make any sense. She said that he was reaching on a tall shelf and a meat grinder fell on his head. Peter Gunness was insured, and Belle collected $3,000, and which today's money that would be worth around $104,000 for his death. And then in 1905, she started placing marriage ads in the newspapers in Chicago, and a man named Henry Gerholt responded to these marriage ads. Belle convinced Gerholt to move to La Porte with her, And he reached out to his family once, writing a letter saying that he liked the farm, and that was it. He never reached out to them again. The family grew obviously concerned with not hearing from them and reached out to Belle. She explained that he actually moved back to Chicago about a week ago, which is weird because his suitcase and his fur coat remained in her house. Then a man named John Moe responded to one of the marriage ads in Chicago. He extracted a large amount of money from his bank account, moved to LaPorte, Indiana, and was never seen again. And then in 1908, Belle's house burned down. Upon small investigation of the house, they found 3 children inside the burned house and the body of an adult woman. Now, the adult woman was said to be Belle, although the person that performs, the autopsy said that the body was actually 5 inches shorter and 50 pounds lighter than Belle was. So, a lot of people don't believe that it was her. I don't either. But it was stated that it was her. They signed her death certificate, everything. So, she died in the fire. And now a man who was kind of suspicious of Belle because his brother had went missing after he received a letter from Belle asking him to move to LaPorte, bring money, and keep everything a secret. This man went to Belle's farmhouse to investigate with another person without telling authorities and found what he described as soft depressions in the hog pens. I did a little research on what that meant because I was a little confused. And basically, it's kind of like a slump in the dirt. Like the ground was flat and there was a small dip in it, right? Now, they dug these up, and the first one they dug up was actually the man's brother who he was looking for. They found his head, both his hands, and his feet. He alerted authorities immediately, obviously, and upon further investigation, authorities found up to 11 bodies. All were chopped up and in these little slumps, all scattered around her entire yard. They said that all the bodies were decapitated, the arms were cut off at the shoulders, and the legs were cut off at the knees. And they tried to identify these bodies, but the only one that was identified was the man's brother. His name was Andrew. That was the only one identified. And one of the authorities actually stated that the sacks of human things that they found was like masses of human bone wrapped in loose flesh that dripped like jelly. That's how he described what he was seeing. Now, in November of 1908, a man named Ray Lamphere was arrested for arson of the Belle farmhouse. It was said that Ray Lamphere and Belle Gunness were actually in an on and off relationship, and when Ray was arrested, he was actually wearing John Moe's coat and Henry Gerholt's watch, which is immediately suspicious. Now, he confessed. He said that Belle was placing marriage ads in Chicago to lure men to Indiana to rob and kill them, and that he knew everything but never said anything. And he stated that one victim's brother was actually growing suspicious of Belle and said that he was going to come out there and investigate, and this scared Belle and caused her to flee, and she asked him to burn the house down for her. He did, is what he said, and he said that the body that they found inside and the body that they said was Belle's was actually not Belle's and was one of her victims that she placed there to throw off investigators. So that's what he said. He was still arrested, so a lot of people think that Belle got away, but the authorities were still like, no, it was her, she was found dead inside, blah, 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 blah. So, tell me what you think. Do you think she got away? Let me know. And if you liked this video and want to see more of me, you should consider subscribing and liking my video and coming back in next weekend.